As much as long-time wrestling fans yearn for the halcyon days where WWE, WCW, and ECW were all alive and thriving, I'm willing to bet wrestlers themselves long for them just that little bit more. After all, 3 full-time nationally touring companies gave wrestlers more options, and many of them famously worked for all 3, sometimes going back and forth between them depending on what was happening in their careers at the time. And then there are other wrestlers who not so famously worked for all 3. I'm Adam Pachisi from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 wrestlers you didn't know wrestled for WWE, WCW, and ECW. Join us! Number 10, Tom Prichard. Prior to becoming a well-renowned trainer, Dr. Tom Prichard had a long career as a pro wrestling journeyman and actually somewhat incredibly competed in 6 different decades. Perhaps it shouldn't come as a surprise to find out that he managed to work for the 3 premier American companies of the 90s then. Prichard's most renowned run came in WWE, where alongside Jimmy Del Rey, he was one half of the Heavenly Bodies before, as Zip, teaming up with Chris Candido, aka Skip, as the tag team title-winning Body Donners. Ahead of joining WWE, Dr. Tom had worked a handful of matches for its closest competitor. In 1990, he did a one-off draw with Hector Guerrero on a WCW house show, a gig he presumably got because it took place in his home state of Texas. Mere months before signing with WWE in 93, Prichard worked 3 televised WCW matches, including a bout with the Rock and Roll Express at the Super Brawl III pay-per-view. While still contracted to WWE in late 95, he visited the land of Extreme for a couple of shows and returned in 1997 for a couple more, which included a match with Candido. Number 9, Christopher Daniels. The main legacy of Christopher Daniels will be the major parts he played in helping the 2000s indie boom when working with companies like Ring of Honor, along with his long and excellent run in TNA. Before those alternatives gave him plenty of opportunity to forge that legacy, however, Daniels was hoping to get signed by one of the big 3. The Fallen Angel was actually signed to a WWE developmental deal in 1998 and worked a bunch of dark matches along with enhancement matches on shows like Jacked and Shotgun Saturday Night between 98 and 2001. In the summer of 99, Daniels made his way to ECW for 6 matches, most of them non-televised, but one of which was a hardcore TV loss to Rhino. With WWE seemingly unwilling to sign him to a proper deal, Daniels tried his luck with WCW, and after working a couple of matches on Worldwide in 2000, got a break when he was booked against Michael Modest in something of a mutual tryout match on the January 23, 2001 episode of Monday Nitro. Unfortunately, Daniels almost broke his neck when he slipped on the top rope while attempting a moonsault, and though he signed a 90-day deal afterwards, he never wrestled for WCW again as they went out of business soon after. Number 8, Michael Shane. Michael Shane, otherwise known as Maverick Matt Bentley, is a guy who, like Christopher Daniels, is best known for his independent work and TNA career. The cousin of Shawn Michaels, Michael Shane was trained by the Heartbreak Kid at his Texas Wrestling Academy and debuted in 1999. It didn't take him long to start getting bookings with the majors, and in the summer of 2000, Shane began working ECW house shows and even appeared on the last ever ECW card on January 13, 2001. As he was working on a per-appearance deal, Shane was free to explore his options and did one shot for WCW when the promotion visited Texas, standing on the opposite side of the ring from 3 counts and a 6-man for Worldwide. His family connection opened the door to WWE, and Shane worked some 14 dark and C-show matches between 2001 and signing with TNA in 2003, rubbing shoulders and nipples with the likes of Road Dogg, Sean O'Haire, Ultimo Dragon, and more. Michael Shane is something of a what-if, given his career never quite reached the heights many predicted, but he can always say he wrestled for WWE, WCW, and ECW. Number 7, Bill Irwin. Wild Bill Irwin, who portrayed an outlaw cowboy gimmick, spent the first decade of his professional wrestling career moving around the territories, which included Mid-South and World Class Championship Wrestling, as well as going overseas to Japan. In the late 1980s, Irwin got a steady job with WCW, working mostly in the mid-card, though he would occasionally crop up on pay-per-view to put somebody over. He left in 1991, but was brought back for a couple of shows in 93, including at Super Brawl III, where he wrestled a debuting Davey Boy Smith. In 1996, Irwin was brought into WWE during their Wrestlers Who Have Other Vocations era as the Goon, the bone-bending hockey player who didn't last terribly long but certainly made a strong enough impression to be brought back for Nostalgia Battle Royals in 2001 and 2007. As Irwin's career was winding down in 2000, he worked a couple of shots for ECW, defeating Johnny Swinger and then putting over HC Lock in back-to-back shows in Minnesota where he was living at the time. Number 6, the Bushwhackers. The Bushwhackers, God bless them, were a consistent presence on WWE programming from the late 1980s until the mid-90s. Fans who only knew the duo for their marching and licking antics would have likely been blown away by the work they were doing as the Sheepherders before they signed with Vince McMahon's organization. The Sheepherders were a pair of wild brawlers who were often involved in dramatic bloodbaths. Among the promotions they worked for was WCW, aka Mid-Atlantic/Jim Crockett Promotions, where they had a series of matches with teams like the Fantastics, the Road Warriors, and the Rock and Roll Express. Luke and Butch didn't revert to their violent ways when they stopped by ECW for a weekend's worth of shows in April of 1998, mind. Rather, they were there primarily for angle advancement as the Dudleys from Down Under. According to the Bushwhackers, Paul Heyman wanted them to work more dates and do a program with the Sandman and Tommy Dreamer, but they couldn't commit to doing so as they had already agreed to bookings with other indie promotions. When Heyman heard they wouldn't be available immediately, he lost interest. What a fool. Number 5, Kevin Northcutt. Look, if you don't know who Kevin Northcutt is, then you clearly weren't a fan of Asylum-era NWA TNA, and you obviously have no respect for the red shirt security tag team. Because that is what Northcutt will be best remembered for. Before all that, Northcutt, who at 6'6" and pushing 300 pounds was always going to attract interest, had brief dalliances with first WCW, then ECW, and then WWE. In 1997, Big Kev worked 2 matches for WCW, putting over Rick Fuller and Chris Adams on episodes of Worldwide and WCW Pro. About a year later, Northcutt worked exactly 1 ECW event, teaming up with Roadkill in a loss to the BWO's Supernova and the Blue Meanie. And about a year after that, he did 2 matches for WWE, teaming up with a bloke called Chris Germany to lose to Droz and Prince Albert on night 1 in the second last match of Droz's career before doing a job for Germany on night 2. Number 4, Devon Storm. Devon Storm was one of the more well-known indie guys of the mid-90s, thanks in large part to a series of acclaimed matches with Sabu. Unlike Sabu, Storm never quite caught on to the same degree in ECW, having started working there as a jobber in 1993. He had a more sustained run in the promotion in the second half of 96, wrestling close to 30 matches for the Extreme Outlet and demonstrating tremendous improvement during that time. Despite his improvement though, no push was forthcoming and Storm quit the promotion at the end of the year. During the height of the Monday Night Wars, Devon was used by both WWE and WCW primarily as an enhancement talent, but he was occasionally put in notable positions, including a US title match with Conan on Nitro and a spot in the tournament to crown a WWE light heavyweight champion. He ended up signing with WCW in late 99, where he was given a new name and gimmick as Crowbar. Alongside Daphne, Crowbar was one of the highlights of the dying days of WCW, but he was released right before the company folded. Storm then had a bunch of WWE tryout matches in 2003, but unfortunately wasn't picked up. Number 3, Rick Michaels. If your response to the name Rick Michaels is to say, who? Then you're an idiot, because who was obviously played by Jim Neidhart. In all seriousness, Rick Michaels is best remembered, if he's remembered at all, for his work in the NWA Wildside promotion in the early 2000s. But before that, he was at least somewhat on the radar of the Big 3, well, Big 2 since he worked for ECW back when it was Eastern rather than Extreme. In 1992 and 93, Michaels did a combined 8 matches for ECW as Super Ninja and actually won a few of them and even challenged for the ECW tag team titles, but the run would prove to be short-lived. In February of 2000, WWE gave Michaels a look as he teamed with Tracy Smothers to put over the Headbangers on Jacked. A couple of months later, he cropped up on the losing side of a random 6-man tag for WCW Worldwide. Michaels worked 2 more matches for WWE in 2001, including a dark match against AJ AJ Styles and would eventually be hired by the company in 2004 as a tailor to make gear for WWE stars, that is. Real name Raymond Rawls, he was let go from that post in September of 2005. Number 2, PCO. PCO is simply not human. Not only does the madman routinely put himself through all sorts of horrific abuse during matches, but the sadist has been wrestling for over 30 years. It has been a long and varied career that has seen Carlule wrestle for the very top promotions in the world, including WWE, WCW, and ECW. He first came to attention as Pierre, one half of the Quebecers tag team alongside Jacques Rougeau, the two heels enjoying a lengthy reign with the tag straps. After a spell as pirate Jean-Pierre Lafitte, PCO reformed his tag team with Rougeau in WCW, where they were known as the Amazing French Canadians before they went back to WWE as the rebooted Quebecers in '98. PCO was on his own come the end of the decade, however, and surfaced in ECW in the summer of 2000. He wrestled 4 matches for the fading promotion, which included a TV title match with Rhino and an ECW World title match against Just Incredible, the latter of which aired on an episode of Hardcore TV. Number 1, Scotty Riggs. Scotty Riggs is most likely best remembered as the one-time tag partner of Buff Bagwell. I mean, how could he not be? Their theme music is burned into the brain of anyone who has been lucky enough to hear it. American males, you know the one. Riggs did have a WCW stint prior to that, wrestling as glorified jobber Scott Studd. Between WCW runs, Scotty wrestled his one and only WWE bouts. At a June 7th, 1995 Raw taping, Riggs worked a dark match with Gorgeous George III, who later wrestled for WCW as the Maestro, in a match that was designed to make George, a friend of Sid Vicious, look good. Later in the night, Riggs worked as Lex Luger's flag holder during Luger's match with Yokozuna, using his real name of Scotty Anton. That is the name he would use when he washed up in ECW in 2000 after being let go by WCW in late '99. He wasn't in ECW for too long, but he did have a memorable storyline and feud with Rob Van Dam, which resulted in a match between the two at the Heatwave pay-per-view famous for the debut of the Van Terminator.